Okay, now welcome everybody to Mindset Magic. I'm so pumped. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you can all see my screen still. I'm really excited about this class because this is 2024 is the year of magic. And I have claimed this for myself, and I hope that you all desire to claim this for yourselves as well. And this class is for you if you are a driven, self-made person. I said woman. Sorry, Claudio. This class is for you if you're an overthinker, if you spend a lot of time in your head, as many of us do. This class is for you if you're hyper self-aware. I know we have a lot of very self-aware women and people, sorry, Claudio, in this room. And this class is for you if you are an overthinker and spend a lot of time in your head. I already did that. Oh, great. Mercury is in retrograde, so the fact that it just closed out is totally normal. And this class is for you if you remember a time when you were attuned to magic. We've all been through so much shit in the last 4 years, and astrologically, next year looks a lot better. It's a lot cleaner, and it's really an opportunity for us to reset and reground into what we want to create. And this class is for you if you are just curious about mindset work. I promise this is going to be jam-packed with tools that you can take and use. And that is my intention, is to really be of service for this next hour together. I want to kick us off with this quote that I really love from Einstein. There are only two ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle. The other as though everything is a miracle. And I love this because it's a really great opportunity for us to remember that the way we look at things changes the way we experience things. If we look at the world like everything sucks, everything's going to suck. If we look at though everything is on purpose and is a miracle, it helps us to enjoy our lives. And it helps us actually to create more of what we want. So we're all born with so much magic. I don't know if you have children in your life, if you're a mom or a dad, you know this from your kids. It's like there are so much magic in children, and we're born this way. And then it gets covered up. It gets covered up. Our innate magic gets covered up with programming, patriarchy, religion, familial standards, capitalism, American values. And it is my desire to help us all to really uncover our magic, because it's there within us. We just have to bring it back. So this is little me. I just remember when I was young, I was such a magical thinker. I was like so outgoing and brave and goofy and like a weird kid. And then as I got older and I experienced trauma, I became much more anxious. I got depressed, and I was living in my head instead of the present. And this is common with a lot of the people I work with. It's like we achieve a lot in our lives, but we're never able to enjoy it because we're just stuck in our head. But let's get back to our little magical selves. So why do I want a magical mindset? This year, if you know me, you know that I went through some shit this year. Um, I invested in a business coach who ended up kind of being a scam, to put it lightly, which really took a toll on my mental health. But I'm committed to putting that in the past and coming back to my magical self. And because this is what I get to do in my work every day, is to help the women I work with to come to their magic. And so it's an opportunity for me also to come back to my magical mind. And so having a magical mindset is something that helps us with our creativity. It helps us to be more innovative. It opens us up to possibility. It actually helps our cognitive function improve when we are in playfulness and in our imagination. It reduces our stress. It makes us better problem solvers. It makes us more resilient. It makes us more connected. And then it makes us more joyful. I think a lot of us forget that part of life is to enjoy our lives. We think that life is about being productive, but 2024 is the year where I continue to enjoy the fuck out of my life and have more joy than ever. So my question, as we head into the rest of this workshop, class, whatever we're calling it, so what would change in your life if you remembered your magic? Very simply, just to ponder. What would change in your life if you remembered your magic? Would you dream bigger? Would you be happier? Would you have more fun? Would you be less stressed? Would you probably put up with less shit and stop settling? Would you believe that more is possible for yourself? Just some things to think about. So, quick agenda. You may have seen this already. We're going to talk about, as quickly and effectively as possible, how to identify unconscious blocks and rewrite them. The power of story and choosing our beliefs, because what we tell ourselves matters so much. And then some ways we can use neuroplasticity and somatic work being body, the body, soma is body, to rewire your brain towards magic. If we haven't met, and there's actually some new people in here, which is so exciting. I'm Lauren. I'm a trained mindset coach and an astrologer. And I used to work in the corporate world, and I used to be just in my head all the time. I was anxious. I would walk around just labeling myself as I'm an anxious person. Anyone I meet, I would just tell them I'm an anxious person. And I overthought everything. And I really dealt with debilitating anxiety, and I was in therapy for a long time. And I still go to therapy occasionally, but nothing really changed for me until I started to work with a coach and do mindset work, because I needed to get out of my story, my rumination over my story, and I needed to rewire my brain. And so since doing this work, I do this full time. I work with women and I love this work. I love helping women to change the way they think. Right now, I'm living in Paris, and because I taught myself that this was possible. I taught myself that it was possible for me to live a life that is untraditional, where I'm living abroad, and I don't really experience anxiety anymore. And that's kind of the biggest outcome I can share. Yes, I went through some hard times, but the fact that I wake up and I'm not anxious is just like the greatest gift I could give myself. And I just really like my life in general. So why does this work matter? There is this book that's literally called You Can If You Think You Can. There are a million books on mindset, but really our beliefs about what is possible for ourselves really shape our reality. And if you believe you can, you're halfway there. Teddy Roosevelt said that. Your beliefs, like I said, really shape your reality. And I want to give us an example of that to get us invest. I want you guys to buy into mindset work. Hopefully you are, if you're here. But for a long time, no one thought they could run a 4-minute mile. No one had ever done it. I personally cannot do that. I have a 12-minute mile, but maybe I just need to change my mindset. But in 1954, this guy named Roger Bannister broke the record with a 3-minute and 59-second mile. And then after that, just bam, 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 repeatedly one after another, people started to get under a 4-minute mile. The only thing that changed, it wasn't their physiology, it wasn't their training. It's just that they believed they could do it. They believed they could, so they did. And so this is just one example of thousands of examples of why the way we think matters everything, matters more than anything. So why are we doing this class now? Number one, I am committed to making 2024 my year of magic. But number two, there are some fun woo-woo reasons why it's really fun to do mindset work now. In numerology, which is something I'm not an expert in, but collectively as a human race, we're moving into a year 8. And what that means is we're all connecting to our personal power in 2024. So we were currently in a year 7 in 2023, which was really about more of a introspection, hibernation, and now we take everything that we learned in our year 7 and we move into this year 8 as a collective. And it's like 8 is the number of money and it's the number of personal power. And so the more you can step into your personal power, the more you attract what you want. And then secondly, since I'm an astrologer, I have to share that the North Node, which is an astrological term that you don't need to know, is going to be in Aries until 2025. And what this means is that we're all letting go of our codependence, of our overgiving, of our self-sacrifice, and we're stepping into self-leadership. And that can mean whatever it means for you personally, but it's moving away from codependence, and it's collectively, we're all becoming more interdependent and independent. So it's like, how do we let go of those places where we are overgiving, where we're settling, where we are not putting ourselves first? And how can we realize that when we put ourselves first, we actually are benefiting everyone? And we get to do the mindset work to enable us to really step into that new way of being. So I want you to continue to be bought into doing mindset work so you pay attention. So I want to share a client example. This is Asia. When she started to work with me, she was working like 80 hours a week in her job that she absolutely hated. And she just felt really, really stuck. And if you've been, I always use her as an example, but she really is just like this all-star client, and all my clients are all-stars. Because she manifested through changing her mindset a job doing completely different work than she'd ever done before. She now travels the world almost full time doing events, and she had never even worked in events in her life before. And she left her marriage, she moved into her dream apartment, and she's just out there like living the best life ever. And the only thing that really changed, it wasn't that she went back and got a secondary degree, she didn't get further education, she didn't do anything different except she changed her mind and believed more was possible for herself. All right, this is the meat. So the first thing I want to talk about is unconscious blocks. If you've taken some of my free classes before, you may have seen some of this, but I think it's worth seeing multiple times because I get something out of it every time I look into this stuff. One of these most famous quotes around our unconscious is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Carl Jung was actually an astrologer. I have to let you know that. And the reason that is, if you've been in my classes before, you've seen this image. Our unconscious is actually 90 to 95% of what runs our operating system as human beings. The top of the iceberg is that 5 to 10% of what we're consciously aware of. Everything else is below the surface. So our conscious is our thoughts and memories and wishes that we're aware of in any given moment. It's in the now. It's in the present only. And our unconscious is everything else. It is everything that's below our conscious awareness. So it's thoughts and feelings, memories, our deeper mental processes. Our unconscious helps us to breathe, to digest. It puts us to sleep. But our unconscious never sleeps because it's always keeping us alive. It controls your heartbeat, for example, blood circulation.
And if you've seen your kid wear all those clothes.
All good. I was like, is there a question? And so it regulates so much, but it also stores so many of our memories. And it's oftentimes the place where we get most stuck, is the way that our unconscious is operating. So in our unconscious, we have negative thoughts, self-defeating behaviors, anger, compulsions, habits, things that from our childhood that really have stayed with us. It's all living in our unconscious. Our relationship patterns in our interpersonal relationships, like if you are an anxious or an avoidant and an attached person, Your attitudes. If you have biases, they are all living in your unconscious. You might not even know where they come from. Um, Sometimes they process through bad dreams, but I want you to understand that your unconscious is so important because it's really running the show. Like I said, 90 to 95% of your actions, thoughts, and reactions come from your unconscious. I'm going to keep saying it. Your unconscious is running the show. So the more that you can work with your unconscious, the more that you can actually take control of your life. And here's something else that's really important to understand about your unconscious. Your mind is wired to keep you safe. So if you think about it evolutionarily, when we were Neanderthals, we had the fight, flight, or freeze responses to literally move us away from predators so that we stayed alive. Now our brains are still wired to keep us safe, but we're not always running away from real threats, right? But if something is familiar to us, our brain can actually believe that it is safe just because it is familiar. So this is why sometimes we get into relationships with the same type of person, even though that person is not good for us. Or this is why sometimes we're like not able to lose weight if we want to lose weight because it is familiar to us. It is safe to us. This is why sometimes we just get into the same, like, when I was still working, not for myself, I just kept getting into situations over and over again with like negative managers dynamics. And it wasn't my conscious mind that was choosing to enter into these jobs. It was my unconscious mind bringing me back to familiarity, which was safety. So since our unconscious is running the show, and since we're wired to stay safe, um, we can continue to stay in bad patterns of things that we don't actually want. And it's not really our fault because we didn't know this, but now that we know this, we can start to create change. So this is an exercise that I want to share with you all that I use with my clients. And if you're my client, you might have done this. But since our unconscious mind gains something by staying stuck where we're at, remember, staying where we're at is familiar and safe. We have to actually unpack that. And there's an exercise I love that comes from a book called Existential Kink by Caroline. I'm forgetting her name right now. Existential Kink is the name of the book, where we look at what we actually gain by staying where we're at. So the exercise that if you want to take it after this is to write a list of what you gain by staying where you're at. And you can do this with anything in your life. It's like if you're job hunting and you can't find a new job, what do you gain by staying unemployed? If you are single and you're like, why am I single? What do you gain by staying single? And this seems like kind of harsh, but it actually can bring us some incredible breakthroughs. And I'm going to vulnerably share an example that I created this summer, and I've worked through a lot of these issues now that I've revealed them. So this is what I did when I thought about what do I gain by staying single, because I'm currently single. And some of those things were I got to stay a victim because I always was told when I was a young magical creature that there was something wrong with me. And so I got to stay in that mentality of being a victim and that I'm someone who needs to be fixed. I got to keep telling myself that I'm other and I'm not like other people. I get to feel bad for myself. I get to feel sorry for myself. And because that is familiar to my unconscious, it's something that my brain reverts back to. I get to keep wishing for a partner. My brain likes wishing for a partner because it's familiar and it's safe. What's not as safe is actually having that partner, right? I get to feel sorry for myself. I get to repeat the same patterns in my romantic relationship. Again, I've moved on through a lot of these. Actually, I wrote this in June. And I get to ruminate. I get to honestly have lots of adventures with men across the world. That is something that I has been something that I've created this year, which is a benefit. I gain that. All of these things can, if I let them, stop me from actually getting what I want. So again, that exercise is really looking at what you gain by staying where you're at. You can take anything in your life through this and really like take a moment, take a breath before you do it and be brutally honest with yourself. You will be surprised at what you will find. And I know there's some people in here who have done this exercise. So and they have all been like, holy shit, I can't believe this. Okay, I want to make sure we have time for everything. We're doing great. The number two mindset thing that I want us to talk about is the power of story. I'm gonna have a sip of my tea. Hope everybody's doing great. I never talk as fast in my life as I do when I'm doing this. Thank you for that heart, Sarah. All right. So, what you're telling yourself about a situation matters. I shared that quote earlier. You can if you think you can. And it is so true. This is my client, Stephanie. And she had this story. She told herself her entire career. She just kept telling herself over and over again, I really struggle with imposter syndrome. I really struggle with imposter syndrome. I really struggle with imposter syndrome. And she just repeated that. And how this manifested in her work is that she's extremely successful at a very company that everyone in this room knows. And she just kept telling herself the story that she had imposter syndrome. So when she went to lead a meeting or to present a pitch, she would have symptoms of her heartbeat increasing in the, heart rate increasing. That's the word. And she would fumble and she would not feel confident because she was very attached to this story of I have imposter syndrome. And once we realized that that was just a story that she was telling herself, it was like this literally happened overnight for her. It doesn't always happen that fast, but we were able to remove the story and insert a new story of I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm doing great. I'm very confident. And her whole work life changed. So she said, this is just her quote from in her words, but she I know her now to be, she said she feels like a completely different person. And all she did was really change the story she was telling herself. And once we identified how that story was impacting her and that that was the trigger story that was negatively impacting her across her whole world, we really got to choose a new story. So this is another fun fact about the mind. We have 70,000 thoughts a day. Can anyone guess what the percentage of these thoughts are negative? Anyone like to take a stab in the chat? No pressure. I promise there's an answer. Now I can't even see the chat, so I don't even, yeah. Kim knew Kim knew the answer. Kim knew the answer because she's heard me share this before. 80%. 80% of our thoughts on average are negative. And if there's 70,000 thoughts per day, and 80,000% of them are negative, how much change could occur if we began to question our thoughts and to rewrite those so we have a few more positive thoughts, even 1% more positive thoughts, 5% more positive thoughts. Again, kind of building on this idea from previous mini lesson, it's like our brain is wired to keep us safe. So if our brain is wired to keep us safe, it is much easier for us to find a negative thought than a positive one evolutionarily. Because if our brain is always searching for a threat, it is finding the negative thing so that we can make sure to overcome it if it were to, come into a reality. The problem with that is most of the negative thoughts we have never actually come to life. And they're actually not serving us. They're actually not helping us to get what we want. I hope this is clear. But it's not your fault that your mind is wired this way. It's literally wired so you stay alive. It's like, thank you, mind, I am alive, but I don't want to live this way anymore. I actually want to have more positive thoughts. And so, like, part of this is survival instinct. Part of this is because if we have a really emotional thought, it is more deeply ingrained, and it's easier for us to recall it, especially if it's negative. If it's a heightened emotion, it's easier for us to recall. Confirmation bias and rumination. The more we think about something, the more it comes back because of the way that our brains wire. Um, the more deep a neural pathway is in our mind, the easier it is for that thing to be recalled and to come back over and over and over again. And then we create self-fulfilling prophecies through our own confirmation bias. If we think something bad's going to happen, it ends up happening because that's the story we keep telling ourselves, right? And so if we keep telling ourselves a particular story, again, it gets deeper and deeper ingrained in our neural pathways in our minds. So neural pathways are just like highways in your mind. It's like they're a car. They're a road and a car is driving down it. And the more we drive down it, the deeper the crevices become where the wheels are. Hopefully this uh, imagery makes sense, but we can actually create new neural pathways, and we actually can stop these neural pathways from getting any deeper and kind of heal them through mindset work. So again, if you keep telling yourself this story, it's just getting more and more emotionally charged, more and more ingrained in your mind. The neural pathway is getting more connections, basically, and it's more likely to be true. So if you're telling yourself, like, I have imposter syndrome, or I'm overweight, or I'm bad with money, or whatever, I'm anxious. The more we tell ourselves the thing, the more it becomes true. And this is why mindset work is so important. Um, when we remove the charge of a negative story, we enable ourselves to create a whole new life, basically, because our brain is going to look for the negative thing, attach itself to it, protect ourselves from it, and create that emotional charge. It's more likely to perpetuate. So, I don't know about you, but I know I actually through mindset work, I stopped dieting. That's been a huge win for me because I had I'm 37. For 37 years, I had a story that I'm fat and I need to lose weight. And the more I told myself this story, the more it became difficult for me to lose weight because I was focusing on the negative thing. And it was a very deeply ingrained neural pathway. So I hear a lot from different clients around stories around money, like, oh, I'm just bad with money, or I'm just anxious. And the more we tell ourselves things, the more it becomes true. So our brain is always searching for evidence to confirm what it already thinks. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. I cannot believe how fast I'm going. There are a lot of slides here. But we can change our mind through neural plasticity, and we can change our default thinking patterns. And this is the good news. Neural plasticity, if you were not aware, it's the ability of the brain to reorganize itself and form new neural connections. It can happen when we learn, when we have experiences, when we change our environment, and it can happen in mindset work. So how do we do this? We get to remove the charge of the thought, and that helps us by charge, I mean how much emotion we attach to it. That helps us to remove the power it has over us. And then we get to create new thoughts that actually do serve us. And this is another important part about the brain. I have this. I took a class from a renowned hypnotherapist, and she said the most interesting thing, which is that memory is a creative process. We think that our memories are set in stone, but The interesting thing is that every time we recall a memory, it changes every single time. So this hypnotherapist said the best way to preserve any memory is to never recall it, which is hilarious, because our brain is always searching for certainty, because certainty makes us feel safe. And when the details of a memory are missing, our brain fills them in. Why does this matter? This is good news for us because it enables us to install new beliefs into. We don't need to change our memory. I'm not suggesting that, but we can change the way we feel about something. We can change the charge that it has over us, and we can have the ability to just rewrite a story in the way that is of service to us. This is not to say like we need to pretend our traumas didn't happen or anything like that. This is just good news that we can actually change the way we feel when we recall memories and change our brains to create more positive thinking pathways. So like I said, every single time you recall a memory, it changes. And then every time you recall it, you recreate it using those kind of filled in details that may or may not be true because our brain is trying to bring us back to familiarity. So I know for me, a lot of my childhood, I don't have very many memories from childhood, which is very common if you experience trauma. But the memories I do have are super, super, super negative. And so part of the work I've had to do was to say, you know what? Yeah, I was experienced this trauma, but I also experienced some happy times. I'm not negating my trauma, but I'm installing this new knowing, which is like, there were some things in my childhood that were okay. And that's all I've really had to change to create some major shifts in how I am able to enjoy my life. Because I had a very ingrained story of, oh, I've experienced a lot of trauma. I had a bad childhood. And it's like, yes, but was it all bad? So when we go back to those bad memories, whether it's from our childhood or from today, the more we stay in it, the more we recall it, the more we obsess over it, the deeper that neural pathway becomes. So what kind of stories can you look at and really examine, is that story helping me? I don't need to rewrite my story, all of my stories, but do I need to recall it as much as I do? How much, because like this is part of the reason mindset work helped me over therapy, although I totally believe in therapy 100%. For 12 years, I went and talked about my dad for an hour a week. And every time I recalled that memory, I was just re-traumatizing myself. And so I needed to get out of the past and into the present and decide, you know what? Yes, that happened to me. And I'm choosing to write new stories about what is possible for me now. So the question I leave you with here is, what memories are you recreating? And are they stories that you want to be telling yourself? So how do we move forward with this now that we have this information? Decide to question your thoughts. Just ask yourself, is this thought that's serving me? And then we can consciously choose what thoughts we want to have about what is possible. And we can ask ourselves, what do I want to believe about this? What do I want to believe about this? And we're cruising on time. Hell yeah. Now we're at part 3. And the part 3 is how to change your mind, AKA how to get a magic mindset. I'm going to have another sip of tea. Hope everyone's still doing well. Thank you all for being here. Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it really impacted me, and it really helps a lot of my clients. You can all read, but it says, you can't hate yourself into becoming someone you love. And I think that's important for many reasons. And with the magic mindset, it's going to ground us into remembering that the more we believe in magic and the more we can help ourselves change through loving ways, the more sustainable the change will be. So again, back to story. If we're telling ourselves a story of I need to lose weight, I'm too fat, I'm ugly, I'm overweight, etc. Diets have like a 95% fail rate, right? Something like that. I didn't don't fact check me. It's because we're really hating ourselves into change. That's just a very easy example. But if we love ourselves into change, that change becomes more likely to stay. So in this final section, we're going to talk about 3 ways to retrain your brain. And step 1 is bringing awareness to your thoughts and questioning them. Step 2 is to regulate your nervous system. Nervous system being your body. It's very difficult to make big changes if your body is in fight, flight, or freeze, and or in burnout or perpetual stress. It is much, much harder to rewire your brain because remember, your unconscious, maybe I haven't said this yet, your unconscious lives up here, but it also lives in your body. So in order to really train our brain into new ways, we need to calm our body first. And this is usually the step that people skip and is the most important step. And then thirdly, we retrain our brain by taking aligned actions and looking for evidence of what we want to see. Because our brains are always searching for evidence to confirm what we believe, right? So if I say, don't think of an elephant, you're going to think of an elephant. And so if we train our brains to like look for the elephants, we're going to see more elephants. But if we train our brains to say, everyone hates me, those examples don't go together, then you're going to find evidence of that. So step 1, bringing awareness to your thoughts and questioning them. If you've been my client, you know how much I love this work. But 95% of our thoughts are repeated and 80% of them are negative. So the more we question our thoughts, I just flubbed, the more we can shift our reality. And so here are some questions that I use on the daily. Feel free to screenshot this or write them down, but these are the questions that I use to question my own thoughts. Is this true? That is from Byron Katie. She has a book called Loving What Is, which is one of the first books I did when I started to do thought work, which is part of mindset work. And the second question that she gives us is, can I absolutely know it's true? So if we have a thought like, my boss is never going to promote me, there's no money for the promotion. Okay, is that true? I might feel that it's true, but I don't know that it's true. So can I absolutely know that it's true? No. That means that there is room for me to potentially find another thought or another belief. Is this thought helpful? Oftentimes these negative thoughts are not helpful and we just get to thank them and then move on. And then I love this one. I think this one's really important. Is this thought mine? Or is this my mom's, my religion's, my teacher's, my partner's? Where did I get this thought? Maybe like, oh, I've always been programmed like that I need to, live the traditional American dream and buy a house and have a kid and have a fence and have a dog. Are those thoughts true? Or is that just what society has told me I should be doing? And the more we can ask ourselves those questions and really unpack, am I doing this for me or am I doing this because of this pattern? That can create so much freedom. This is another question from Byron Katie. Who would I be without this thought? Oftentimes those thoughts that we ruminate on, if we took them out of our lives would improve, right? And then what would I choose to believe if I could choose to believe anything? And I'm not telling you to go into Delulu land, because I know there's a lot of like Instagram things right now about like, just be a Delulu girl or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that. But oftentimes if we believe something is possible, it becomes possible. Do I believe I'm going to be successful? Yes. Am I going to choose to believe that I'm successful? Yes. And am I going to choose, and this is a belief I struggle with, Am I going to choose to believe that this is really hard and it's really rare for people to succeed? I'm going to see more of that. If I am looking for evidence of a belief that everything is going to work out, everything is happening for me, I see more of that. So a lot of the times when we have a negative thought in particular, it can be really hard for us to get to a positive thought. And so like if your rumination thought is something like, I'm really anxious. I'm really anxious. It's going to be hard for you to make this jump from I'm really anxious to I feel great, right? So what I encourage my clients to do if they find themselves with a thought that they're ruminating on is to come up with 3 positive thoughts that might be a little out of reach, and then 3 neutral thoughts. And we get to practice choosing them. So if we want to go from I am anxious to I feel great, a good middle ground could be something like I'm doing fine. Everything's okay. I'm okay. Or making a taking or if we're describing an emotion or a sensation that we're feeling in our body, instead of I am anxious, it can be really also helpful to use a specific word like I'm not anxious, I'm angry. Or I'm not anxious, I'm having tightness in my chest. I'm not anxious, I'm just having a hard time breathing. And like taking some of the charge out of it. And that could be another way we could look for neutrality on our way to feeling better. Hopefully this makes sense. I got a nod. Okay. And then we have to regulate our nervous system so that these new thoughts can take hold and they can form those new neural pathways. A little very, very quick summary of the nervous system is that we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, rest and digest, and fight, flight, or freeze. Most of us we're meant to be in rest or digest most of the time. Evolutionarily, we were going out to hunt, coming back to rest and digest and eat. But because of things like social media, the pandemic, we're living in, you know, catastrophic times where a lot of bad shit is happening. Most of us are in a prolonged state of fight, flight, or freeze. And so it's so hard for us to make these changes when we're in these prolonged states of fight, flight, or freeze. So we have to regulate our nervous system. I just told you all this. So it's really hard to change your mind when you are emotionally charged. I just told you all this. I got ahead of myself. But cortisol, the stress hormone, it negatively impacts your cognitive function. When we're charged, we are often going to do a habitual response. So like, let's say you're stressed out at the end of the day and you're like, I just want some chocolate. That's actually a habit. And if you calm down your nervous system first, you might not actually want the chocolate afterwards because you're acting from that cortisol charged place or that stressed place. And when you are charged, your cognitive resources are limited. You're not as smart. You actually are much more smart when you're in play, pleasure, and fun, and magic. You are smarter when you are thinking about all of the magic that's here. So just some really quick ways to calm your nervous system. Breathing. This is the thing that I tell my clients to do the most. I tell my clients to set a timer on their phone once an hour to breathe. And you might say, oh, but I'm breathing already. Like, I don't need to breathe. How deep are your breaths? What is the quality of your breath? Are you tense in your body or are you letting yourself have a release? There is something called the physiological sigh, which is a very, Andrew Huberman talks about this all the time. It's just 2 breaths in and then a sigh out using sound. And that can also really regulate your body. You can shake. You can use exercise and you can use mindfulness. And something I want to add about exercise is that if you are used to doing high intensity exercise and you are somebody who like isn't very present for your workouts, like you're there, but your mind is like on your to-do list, it actually can be spiking your cortisol and making it more difficult for you to calm down your body. So if you can exercise sometimes in ways that are calming to your nervous system instead of heightening, it can help reduce your cortisol and make it easier to change your mind. And this is the thing that most people skip. Most people skip the calming down your nervous system. And this is why so many diets fail. This is why so many people try new habits. New Year's right around the corner. People don't regulate their nervous system. And so when they're trying to create these new habits, they end up reverting to their old habits because their nervous system is operating from that unconscious place of charge. So if you don't take anything else away, I just want to tell you, please regulate your nervous system. And then finally, in retraining our brain, let's look for evidence of what we want to see instead of what we don't want to see. I love this. So we get to tell our brains what to look for. We get to tell it to look for magic. Why not? Why wouldn't I tell my brain to look for magic? I don't know about you, but there's been a lot that's happened in my life in the last 4 years, and I want more magic. And so I'm going to tell my brain to look for it. And I have some fun games that you can play with the universe to help you to look for magic. Again, these are just ways we can be in play, in fun, that can help us to like literally find our magic, right? So the first one is a daily gratitude practice. You can do this however you want. But gratitude is scientifically proven to be one of the most effective ways we can change our psychology and physiology. And I just say my gratitude out loud. If you're my client, you know this. Every day, and I let it change my state. So I let it say like, oh, I'm so grateful. It was such a nice day today. I got so much done. And I let myself smile. I let myself have a changed state. And it makes me happier, right? But you can do this however you want. Sometimes I often do this. I do this many days of the week, but I like to ask the universe for help. And this is more my woo-woo side. But often I will say, universe, help me to experience some magic today. And every time I ask, something happens. I'm in Paris. Like I asked this last 2 weeks ago now, week. I said, universe, I want to experience some magic. And I went to the Louvre. And then on the way into the Louvre, I discovered there was like France's biggest wine tasting, uh, annual wine tasting event. And it was like there, and I could go to the Louvre at the same time for like no money. And it was like, oh my God, this is so magical. I get to drink French wine and be at the Louvre. Like, what? This is life. I get to have this. And if I'm not open to magic, I'm not attuned to magic, I don't see that as magic, right? But I let the universe surprise me. This is an exercise I actually got from my therapist. She goes treasure hunting, and she goes on walks, and she looks around at her world and looks for what she defines as treasure. And you can self-define treasure to be whatever you want it to be. So for her, it's like little trinkets. Kim says there's an app called Gratitude Jar, and you can write your gratitude, and you can shake the jar and see your past ones. That's so cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing. But in treasure hunting, you can be like, oh, look at that beautiful cloud, or look, I found a penny, or look, I found a business card, and think of it as treasure. My therapist actually collected all of her treasures in a jar, and it was just like basically junk, but she's looking at the world as if it's magic. And so her treasures became treasures because she called them treasures. I do this with like I love to go looking in a little library. It's the most fun I ever have is looking at a little library for treasure. Or just like it could be a beautiful flower you take a picture of, could be a tree. Like go out and look for good things. This is something I love, is to look for signs and synchronicities. I love to ask the universe for specific signs. The other week I asked the universe, if I'm supposed to date this guy, send me a buffalo. And I was like, where did that come from? Like, why did I think buffalo? Because I let my intuition come up with the thing. And I don't like have any relationships to buffalo. Like, I don't know. And I was talking to a friend of mine. And I was like, I just asked the universe for a buffalo and I don't know why, but that's the sign it gave me. And then she's like, that's so weird. That's the sign that I use for men. And I was like, okay, universe, like I got my sign. And it can be really fun. It's magical. It was magical to have that reflected back to me. Because what are the odds that her sign for men is a freaking buffalo? And I had no idea. So, wow, we're doing it. I'm so happy we made it through. A magical mindset is created through intention and by making a decision that more is possible for you. So for everyone in this room, I want you from my heart to your heart to know that I believe that everything that you want is possible for you. And I will hold that belief until you can hold it for yourself, because I know that what you want is on your heart for a reason and that it is possible. And so some of the things that I created this year from having my magical mindset is like, I'm living in Paris right now. I manifested this apartment. I ended up getting 2 months of rent for the price of one. Um, this summer, I was also in Europe and I got so much free housing all over all over Europe. I've started going on better dates because I've done this unconscious work. I don't really worry very much anymore. I'm just assuming things will work out, which is like a crazy thing to realize. Like because I used to waste so much energy worrying. And I don't. That's not where my energy goes. My energy goes now into like enjoying myself. I created free meals, free drinks, free entry into the museum. Like my entry to the museum at the Louvre was free. And the more I believe in magic, the more magic comes. And so for my clients, this manifests as like literally their dream jobs coming in, new relationships, improvements in their current relationships, more money. I work with like half women in who work in corporate and like half who are entrepreneurs. So my entrepreneurs have made new business, new clients. I have a client who manifested a brick and mortar business. And then today she told me she also manifested $10,000 out of nowhere. I was like, damn, girl, you really doing this mindset work. Because she's believing that more is possible for herself. She didn't change anything she did. She just changed what she believed was possible. And so, and all my clients feel like they are really alive, aligned, and present. My other client today texted me that she um, was on a date and they were like, "Do you want to go see Billy Joel right now?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then all of a sudden they were like at Madison Square Garden watching Billy Joel. And it was like, wait, we just can do this. Like this is the life we get to create because we get to have fun and fun gets to be important. So I hope all of this was helpful, and I hope that you can take this information and implement it in your day to day. And then if we never talk again, I've impacted your way in at least some small positive way, because this work is the work that changes my life and my client's life. But if you desire to create your magic mindset into 2024, I have two specific ways that you can work with me. And this is for you if you want to go into the new year with less stress, less anxiety, less overthinking, and more ease, flow, and aliveness, and the certainty that you can have anything you want. That's like the greatest gift that I have been given as a coach. Is so many of my clients tell me that they believe that they can have anything they want now, and like it is so fucking amazing to have that. But I have two specific ways, and both are to work with me, and both have discounts if you attended this workshop. So the first is the 1 month coaching intensive, which is a deep dive, 4 sessions over a month, and we go into your oldest, stickiest patterns, where you feel stuck and where you have limiting beliefs, and really pick out what beliefs you want to keep, what you want to get rid of, and move forward. So it's a really like the foundational package for creating profound and lasting change that you can create. So we use your birth chart because I'm also an astrologer, but we use mindset work to really help us change our mind and then create change in our external life. And really, you get to live the life that you want. So many of us are living lives we're settling for. And then I love this work because I get to help women live the lives that they want. So usually this is $999 for a month, $999. But if you use the code MAGIC, for 48 hours only, it is going to be $888. And you can use this discount code on the payment plan. So it's payable over 1, 2, or 3 months. And if you want an extended payment plan, you just got to email me. And then I have a brand spanking new offer, which is exciting. And it is a Get Unstuck coaching call. And this is a 90-minute coaching call where we look at your birth chart and or your human design. And we get you unstuck and on your path forward in a way that really sets you up for success. So I know that coaching packages are not accessible for everybody. And it's my hope that if anyone needs help to get unstuck, that they can come to me and really get that help they need to create that change. So this is like a one-time 90-minute deep dive call. And after the call, you'll have a very clear path forward. And this price is normally $333, and for 48 hours, it's $222. I couldn't make the discount code the same for some reason. So this discount code is unstuck. I wish it was both magic because that would be much more clear and less confusing. But we got to give ourselves some slack because, that's what it is. And that's it. And it's 7 o'clock on the dot. So I'm going to drop those links in the chat. I'll also email everything to you. I feel like I just ran a marathon. Thank you, Sarah. I really hope this was of service to you. And I really appreciate everyone who came live. And you're all amazing. Thank you, Claudio. And I hope to connect with you all soon. And happy holidays. Happy holidays. Oh, Kim, thank you. Kim is my hype woman. I paid her to be here. Just kidding. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.